nearly a day's hike from Margo's encounter with the beast. Just beyond the sable forest, the village of Murr was perched precariously on the rocky crags and low cliffs of Mount Acamont. The morning fog had blanketed the village in a great gray glow, but such an inconvenience kept none from their daily duties. The Murrocs took to their business about the brick and thatch of the many quaint cottages that made up the small, bustling burg. The lower caste, ranchers and herders mostly, tended to the hens, milked the sows, and sheared the sheep. Potato, eggplant, and all manner of squash were brought to bear by a group of farmers upon the small patches of arable land tucked away in small garden nooks. Water was collected from a nearby spring for all in the village to benefit. The upper caste, the warriors of Murr, rose to their training as well, filling the fog-covered clearing towards the edge of the village, women all. Front and center, the bruisers and brutes stretched their legs and joked about. These women were the strongest of physical fighters, specializing in the heaviest axes, shields, and armor. Behind them, the shorter, more agile women prepared all manner of knife and throwing weapon, light swords and small bucklers. In the third row, the smallest women prepared their bows and inspected their new fletchings, while a few others balanced short spears delicately in their hands. Finally, behind them, the youngest girls of all sizes ran about impatiently, not yet sorted between the first three groups. One green-haired girl stood out of place among them amid the sea of adolescence. The thin and frail Holly heft her pack of paraphernalia and prepared her bow for today's training. At 5'3", she stood above the much younger children by mere inches, and looked awkwardly in between, with her overlong legs and underlong arms, the fate of puberty's cruel joke. Holly was a runt amongst the warriors of Murr. A tow-headed archer with short pixie hair broke rank and approached her. "Is it true you make your own arrows?" The girl snickered a bit. "You're really good at it. My brother's fletchings are an embarrassment. Perhaps you could give him some advice." Chortling rumbled amongst the other girls. Holly remained silent as she strung up her bow. "I'm sure you'll become a master bowyer one day." Holly walked away in silence to the practice targets as the sounds of shrill laughter bit at her back. You see, Holly was an oddity in Murr. In a village of women warriors, her lack of physical prowess made her an outcast. Not only the weakest for her age, at 15, Holly was weaker than many of the 10-year-olds just beginning their training. Further, it was the men of Murr who filled the role of artisan. Thus, her proficiencies as a bowyer made her the village fool. Despite this, she remained stubbornly dedicated to her training as an archer. Holly raised her bow towards the target before her and nocked an arrow. Drawing back with all of her strength, she let it fly. Her accuracy was impeccable, yet her range was extremely limited due to her small bow and weak draw. Never had she been able to draw a full-sized bow effectively, so she had kept to the child-sized bows of her youth. The arrow struck the target nicely, yet Holly was fully aware of the ineptness of her range. Anything beyond a 30-yard target taxed her arms horribly, while the other archers fired 100-yard stingers with deadly force and cruel accuracy. "That was lovely," the pixie-haired girl snarked sarcastically as she approached once again, a small troop of young girls following her. You know, at this distance it might be easier if you just threw the arrows. Some girls have always been mean to Holly, and this one was named Una. A year younger than Holly and already one of the most accomplished of the young archers. She preyed upon Holly. What use is an archer without distance? Una drew an arrow of her own and loosed it upon a target over 120 yards away, striking quite near the bullseye and producing a loud crack that echoed through the morning air. For some time now, Holly's strategy was to ignore Una, or anyone else whom treated her ill. Yet Una's next words were not so easily ignored. I heard Margo left the village. I bet she left to find a village without someone so pathetic living there. What are you talking about? Holly turned to Una, surprised. I heard it from some of the other bruisers. She was in full armor when she left yesterday, provisions for a long trip and everything. Margo was Holly's friend. Her only friend. The person who protected her and stood up for her against the others. She looked back at the larger warriors, wrestling about and testing one another. Indeed, Margo was missing. Holly was surprised. She hadn't noticed her absence yet. Holly unstrung her bow quickly, reclaimed her arrow, and pushed past Una towards the larger girls. What do you want? One of the girls stopped to ask her curtly. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I heard Margo left? Yeah, I heard she was heading up to the mountain to win an honor trophy. Really? I didn't know things with Turk had become that serious. Holly was shocked. In the village of Murr, a warrior proposes to an artisan by winning a trophy of affection in their honor and presenting it to the family. The difficulty of the task and rarity of the trophy have a great deal to do with the success of the proposal. The man of Margo's affections, Turk, was a talented smithy and son of a village elder. To win his hand, no simple task would be required, and Holly knew exactly what Margo had in mind. She wants to challenge the bugbear, doesn't she? Holly pressed. I guess, but if she has it in her head, good luck stopping her. The girl looked a bit annoyed at Holly's continued presence, finally turning away from her completely. The bugbear was a creature of folklore, a shadow that lived near the peak of Mount Acamont. None had seen more than a swift silhouette of it, and those who entered the creature's den lie there still. Most would pay no mind to the bugbear, were it not for the occasional youth whom fed the creature with their ambition for proposal-winning trophies. Indeed, to bring back a trophy of the bugbear was to all but guarantee a proposal's success. Holly removed herself from the training grounds immediately. A shudder of genuine fear danced about her as she returned home in a panic. She hastily gathered provisions for a journey of her own. Holly was unwilling to live this outcast life among the village of Murr without her dearest friend. She would find Margo and stop this madness.